All right, buckle up everyone. This is a wild story. It's a story of how I ate a donut out of the trash can. So this is my binge eating story. Many years ago, well over a decade ago, about 15 years ago, I did a bodybuilding show. And to do that bodybuilding show, I had to diet extremely hard with very unsustainable methods, and I was starving. It was terrible. And so what ended up happening is when I stepped on stage, I looked phenomenal. I had extremely low levels of body fat. I could see all the veins crawling up in my stomach. I was basically an anatomy chart. But what no one prepared me for was what to do after the competition. And so what happened after I stepped off that stage is that I just ate absolutely everything. I justified to myself that because I did so well with dieting and being on stage that I could indulge myself in all the foods that I've been wanting to eat this whole time. And that resulted in me gaining 50 pounds in 30 days after the show. Right now, 50 pounds in 6 months, 50 pounds in 30 days. Yes, some of it was glycogen because I depleted my glycogen to step on stage, some extra water retention, but still, I went from being ripped and looking like an anatomy chart to looking like the Pillsbury Doughboy, all right? I had man boobs, I had a stomach, all my abs were gone, there's no more definition in my muscle. So what ended up happening after that is I absolutely hated my body because I had just built this new point of reference for myself of what lean, healthy, and fit was, which was how I looked like when I stepped on the bodybuilding stage. And let's be realistic, that is not a realistic view of what is lean, healthy, and fit. It's actually really unsustainable, and no one maintains that level of leanness all year round unless they're on some PEDs, right? Some steroids or things that's gonna allow them to stay that lean. And I was a natural bodybuilder. I didn't touch any of that stuff. And so that became my point of reference of what lean was. And so even if I had a little bit of body fat on me, I still would have hated my body because I didn't look like how I looked like when I was on stage. But not only did I not have a little bit of body fat on me, I had an extra 50 pounds. And so it led me to have a really unhealthy relationship with my body and how I look. I absolutely hated it. And I hated myself for having allowed myself to get to that position. And so you can imagine, put on 50 pounds pretty much instantly within a matter of 30 days. It changes how you view yourself. It changes how your body feels. And your brain is not used to you looking that way because literally 30 days earlier, you were looking in the best shape of your life. I had to be so strict with my nutrition. My calories were so low. I had to do 2 hours of Stairmasters, 7 days a week. I was strength training 4 to 5 times a week. I was in a steep calorie deficit. At the end, I think I was consuming 1,400 calories. I'm a 6'4" guy. So I was not consuming a lot of food, expending a lot of energy. And on my plan, the way that I was coached was, if it says berries, you can't have bananas. If you have bananas, it'll make you fat. If you have mango, it'll make you fat. Even though, knowing what I know now, it could be the same amount of calories, how I was taught is if I deviated from that plan, I would put on fat. So if it said brown rice and I ate white rice, I would get fat, even though it would be a cup of each, basically. My whole training and approach to nutrition was what I learned from my coach at the time, which was very strict. And, obviously it led me to have an unhealthy relationship with food, to think that I can't have a banana or a mango, even though it would be the same amount of calories that what would be in my oatmeal in the morning. That is one of the components. But also because I had put on so much fat after, and to be honest, I ate so much shit food to end up in that position, obviously, well, I didn't feel that great. I didn't have energy. I was fluffy. I was inflamed. My brain was foggy. I felt groggy all the time because I was eating a ton of processed food and a lot of unhealthy foods because I couldn't have it for my whole prep for my show. So it just led me to worst scenario possible. I hate my body. I hate myself. Unhealthy relationship with food. And being that much heavier, I obviously wanted to go back to being lean because I had built up this identity for myself, but also in my community, that I was this fit guy. I was this fitness guy. For people to see me and see that I had man boobs and a gut, literally a month after stepping on stage, they're like, what happened to you? What's wrong? So that led me to want to lose weight again. But here's the issue with that is the blueprint that I had in my head, because that was the first time in my life ever dieting, ever trying to lose weight. I had never attempted to lose weight. All the years that I was younger, I always wanted to be bigger. So I was used to quote unquote diet to put on muscle. So I was used to consuming 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calories to try to put on some muscle. I was able to do that successfully. And then, doing the bodybuilding show was my first attempt at fat loss. And during that first attempt at fat loss, I've shared, the methods were very unsustainable and strict. I literally ate the same thing for almost 3 years in the build up to the show. And then for the fat loss, just the quantities were a lot less. And I would do some weird shit at night, like maybe a few weeks before the show, I would wake up in the middle of the night because I had such big cravings, because when you're that low in body fat, your body is fighting for its life basically, because fat is it's stored energy for survival. And so I just wanted to eat crap so badly. I would wake up and and the people that have done a bodybuilding show will potentially relate to this. I would just open the jar of Nutella and I would just take like a big whiff, and I was like, I can almost taste it. I can taste the sugar just from smelling it. You do some weird stuff when you're low in body fat, but ultimately that was what I learned for the blueprint to lose weight, that's the only way that I knew. And so imagine, I'm 50 pounds overweight. I was about 162 pounds when I stepped on stage, like absolutely shredded, no water retention, no glycogen, nothing, like minimal glycogen, obviously, before I stepped on stage. So I was about 210 or so when I did that. So about 210 pounds with man boobs. And I was like, I want to lose some weight. Well, the only way I know how is to do this extreme diet. But if you have ever done an extreme diet, like there's an apprehension to doing it. You're like, oh man, this is going to suck. I'm not going to be able to eat the foods that I enjoy. I'm not going to be able to be social with my friends. I'm going to be hungry all the time. This is going to be miserable. It's going to be terrible. And so just like everyone else, and again, I used to be in that position, I would, get motivated on like Thursday or Wednesday, whatever. I'm like, all right, Monday, I'm starting my diet, which was the one that I did when I was going to do my bodybuilding show. Because again, that's all I knew. I didn't know the things that I know now. I didn't have the tools that I have now. I'm gonna start on Monday, but you can ensure that I'm gonna have a great time this weekend because I'm gonna be very strict when it comes to Monday. So I was basically treating it as like I was gonna go to jail and I had to enjoy life to the fullest before I went to jail. So you can be sure that I went for the pizza, for the ice cream, for the cookies, for the donuts, for the chips, for all of the things that I would not be allowed to eat once Monday came. And then guess what? Monday came, I had my meal prepped, I had everything ready to go. And then I would do maybe 2-3 days. And maybe on that third day, on that Wednesday, I'd be hungry because I did such a steep calorie deficit, because that's what I had learned the first time, which you shouldn't do, by the way. And I had so much hunger and so much cravings. And I was like, I want salt, I want sugar, I want all this crappy food. I was like, no, Maxime, you can't have that food. And maybe on like Thursday would come and I was like, okay, like I can have a little bit of it. It won't do too much of a difference. And then I would have like one bite of a cookie. And then my brain would just basically go numb. And I would wake up and I would be like 10 cookies deep. I would buy these like massive packs of cookies at Costco. I'd be 10 cookies deep. And I'd like catch myself eating the cookie, and then I'd be eating a cookie and I'd be like, oh my God, I shouldn't do this. This is not good for me. This is sabotaging all of my efforts. As I'm eating cookies, I'm thinking these things like, no, I should stop doing this. This is not good for me, but this is so good. And man, I would just end up finishing the whole pack. And it was the same thing with ice cream. It was the same thing for chips. Like, oh, popcorn, just have a little bit of it. But then you find yourself not having control once the food is in your mouth. And I completely relate to that, because I remember having the thoughts of, I shouldn't do this. This is not good for me. This is sabotaging all of my efforts as I'm shoving food down my throat. And so guess what? That would happen. I would feel like shit on Thursday. And then on Friday, I would wake up and like, okay, well, do I go back to my diet or do I just restart on Monday clean? And then I would convince myself to start on Monday clean again. But then because on Monday, it felt like I was going to go to prison for the rest of my life, I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy myself this weekend before I start this diet. And then on the weekend, I would have the pizza, the cookies, the ice cream, and the chips. I would eat everything. And then I just repeated that cycle, basically. Like I would start on Monday. I do really good Monday, Tuesday, and like Wednesday, I'd have some cravings. Maybe Thursday, Friday, have a little something. And I could not control myself. I go overboard and I convince myself, okay, next Monday is going to be different. But then on Monday, I'm sorry, Tom, I better have a good time this weekend. And I would eat a shit ton of food the weekend. So I probably put on like, freaking a few pounds over the weekend just in preparation for going into the diet on Monday. I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to lose it all. But what ended up happening is I went from 210 to about 225 pounds. So I put on 50 pounds already at this point. So I went up about 225-ish pounds, 225, 230 pounds-ish roughly. Yeah, it was about 225 that I went up to. And at that point, like, again, I was bigger. I was still training because, don't get me wrong, I still loved exercising. So throughout this whole story that I'm telling you, I was always strength training because I always loved it. It was just, I didn't have any control over nutrition. I felt like I didn't have any willpower. I couldn't be disciplined with my nutrition. After a while of doing that, I just like looked at myself shirtless and I just looked all inflamed and stretched out. There's no definition when you have excess body fat. and I just hated the way that I looked. And I just realized I was entering an interesting chapter in my head where I figured out how to lie to myself more than what I already was by saying I'm gonna start on Monday. But I looked at my body and I was like, okay, I love training and identify as a bodybuilder because I had done a bodybuilding competition. So it was a part of my identity as a person and at the gym. But then it obviously wasn't working out too great because I was a fat bodybuilder. Like it wasn't working out too great for me. I always loved training because I was a basketball player before I was a bodybuilder. So I always had like an identity as an athlete. I always had a sport that I trained for. And I was like, okay, I'll probably never get myself to do another bodybuilding competition because I don't want to go through that shit show of cutting my food that low and having such low body fat that basically I stopped sweating for almost like a month before my bodybuilding competition. Like it wasn't healthy. Some people do it and they love it. Again, I don't feel like I did it properly, but I had a terrible experience with it. And so then I entered the stage of, well, maybe let me pick another sport that I can train for where it's okay to be fat. And then so I just went on Google and I started looking at different videos of exercise and all that. And I was like, oh, power lifters. They're fat and strong. It's perfect. I can just be fat and strong. That's my new sport. And so I started looking at powerlifting videos and basically those guys are eating like 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 calories a day. And I was like, well, I have to do it now because it's a part of the sport. I have to eat all of this food so that I'm big and strong. Again, that was me lying to myself. I was like, what's part of the sport now? So I don't have to diet anymore. I don't have to watch my food anymore. So then I think the first thing I went on when I did powerlifting is I obviously switched my training style. So I lift heavier and train for bench press, deadlifts, and squat, which to be fair, through my powerlifting phase, I went up to 240 pounds, which is kind of like the peak and the heaviest that I've weighed. And I got my bench up to 350. My squat was 420 pounds and my deadlift was 550 at my heaviest. But again, compared to other powerlifters, it's not impressive because I was weighing 240 pounds. There's people that lift that at 160 pounds. But I'm just saying, like, I got pretty strong. But again, I'm 6'4", so my joints were absolutely hurting. So that's why I kind of ended up stopping a little bit later on. But the first, quote unquote diet that I went on as a powerlifter was the whole diet. So I don't know how many of you have heard of the whole diet. You probably heard of Whole30, right? Eating 30 plants and all that. No, the whole diet was you eat a whole cake, a whole pint of ice cream, a whole pizza, a whole box of cookie. It was you eat the whole of the thing that you are buying. I would go for lunches and I eat 2 12-inch Subway sandwiches. I'd have 2 shawarmas every time I'd sit down and eat some food. I would just eat all the crap. And that was basically my way of justifying I'm doing this for the sport so I can be an athlete in that sport. So I would just eat all the crap that I wanted. And to be fair, at first it was fun because I was like, I don't feel guilty anymore about not being able to stick to my diet because this is the diet. I just get to eat. I just get to eat everything. But that crept up because I was 225 and I went up to 240 pounds at my heaviest. To be fair, I was really strong. But there was a point which I've shared in the video that I recorded 2 Saturdays ago. It's on the channel. It basically called, if I had to lose 80 pounds all over again, here's what I would do differently. And you guys really enjoyed this video and kind of inspired me recording this video, kind of sharing other stories of my fitness and transformation journey. One day I was driving to the gym, 240 pounds in my little Honda Civic, and there's a back alley to the Nautilus in Elmer. So people listening from Elmer, Canada, you'll know where that is. There's a little like back alley there that you can drive and there's some speed bumps. And I just hit one of those speed bumps and my man boobs just continued jiggling. My man boobs in my stomach just kept jiggling after I hit the speed bump. And I was like, oh, dang, this is not supposed to jiggle that much. And it kept jiggling for a little bit past the speed bump. I was like, I think I need to do something about this. And so then I started going online on YouTube, which was kind of like where I watched and learned things at the time. Again, it's a very long time ago, like in the early days of YouTube when the fitness YouTubers were kind of blowing up. And I stumbled upon a video that talked about IIFYM. So for those of you that like know what that is, it's great because it's very old. But basically called If It Fits Your Macro. So it was like a big movement back in the day. And it was basically that you could eat anything that you want as long as it fits your macros. So you had a protein goal, a carbohydrate goal, and a fat goal for the day, which as an overall compose your calorie deficit that you're supposed to have. And you can eat whatever you want as long as it fits your macros, or if it fits your macros. Oh boy, did I ever go on a journey. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to lose weight with this thing. I'm gonna try tracking my calories, which to be fair is never something that I had done because when I did bodybuilding, I got a piece of paper that said, eat this, this, and this, and don't deviate at all from it. These are the comments you're allowed to have, which was hot sauce and mustard. That's pretty much the hot sauce, that the condiments that I was allowed to have on that plan. It was very strict. There's no deviation from it. So the if it fits your macro is very interesting to me, because it's like, oh, well, as long as I make it fit within my macros for the day, I should lose weight according to what those people are saying. But here's the thing, my brain wasn't ready to eat healthy. My brain wanted all the crap. I wanted the chips, the cookies, the ice cream, the pizza, and all those things. And I would watch these guys on YouTube, and they would make like cereal fits within their macros. They would make pizza. They would have some pints of ice cream. I was like, this is amazing. I get to eat terrible food and I'm going to lose weight. And so I decided to give it a shot. I committed to tracking my calories, but just eating everything that I want. As long as I stay within my protein, carbohydrate, and fat ratios, numbers for the day, I should technically lose weight. And so I embarked on this journey of trying to get lean again, trying to get a six-pack again, because my six-pack was covered with a thick layer of flubber at that point. I went for it. I can't remember how long it took me. Probably took me like 5 or 6 months of tracking my food religiously, but I ate pizza, I ate ice cream, I ate cookies, I ate chips, I ate all the shit that I wanted, but I made sure I hit my protein goal and my carbs and my fat goals, but I ate terrible food. Here's the thing that happened. I got a six-pack eating absolute crap, but I also felt like shit. I felt terrible. I had so much acne. My digestion was terrible. I had so much low energy. I was drinking like 2 Monsters a day, like energy drinks. I had very low energy, terrible digestion, bad skin. My brain was really foggy. Like I didn't feel great, but I had a six-pack. And so to me, I was like, whoa, this is a very interesting concept. I can eat terrible food as long as I make fit within my macros, and I'm going to get lean. Now that I'm reflecting back on this journey and this story, I'm kind of noticing the steps that I did, because once I got the six-pack, I kind of took care of like my biggest pain point, right? My biggest pain point when I was 240 was not, I want to feel good and have energy every day. It was like, no, I'm fat, I'm uncomfortable in my body. It feels like I have this thick layer of fat on me, and I just want to be able to zip it off in one go and be bam, have a six-pack and feel good about myself again. But obviously it doesn't work that way. I had to put some efforts with the cardio and the exercise and monitoring my nutrition. But then there's a second pain point that arose as I got the six-pack, and it was, I feel terrible. I'm anxious from all the caffeine that I'm taking in. I don't have natural energy. I have so much acne on my face, and I'm genuinely just farting all the time because my gut health is terrible from the terrible food that I'm eating. Then that pain point became the biggest thing for me. It wasn't about looking great. I looked great externally. It was about like, I want to feel good. I want good digestion. I want to have all these pimples on my face. I just want to have more energy without having to drink all these energy drinks. What I started to do was just like, okay, I should probably eat more fibers and fruits and vegetables. So I started adding more whole foods into my calories that I was eating. But to be fair, I didn't stop eating terrible food. I just slowly weaned off of it. And then whenever I wanted something, I just allowed myself to have it. And then what ended up happening is I was able to stay in shape. And as I increased the amount of healthy food that I had, my gut felt better. My skin cleared out. I had more energy. I was actually progressing more in the gym because I had more energy and I was actually fueling myself properly. Looking back, I didn't know that. I just wanted to feel better. And that whole journey of losing the weight and transitioning to eating healthy food, to be honest with you, was maybe about 2 years. It took me a long time to really get to the place of like, okay, I'm eating at least 80% of healthy whole foods, and the rest is crap. So looking back to this journey, when I was convincing myself that I was going to start on Monday, and then on that Thursday, Friday, when I would deviate a little bit, I'd be like, oh my God, I can't stop eating. This is terrible. There was one of those weeks where I was just so sick and tired of not being able to control myself around food. And it literally it's making me emotional, because I remember how freaking I just wanted to give up. I was like, man, I'll just stay fat forever. Like I'll just stay uncomfortable in my body. I'll just hate my body forever. This is not gonna work for me. And I remember having a box of donuts and just having this impulsive moment of, and I was eating it, obviously. I just box of donuts, I was like, I just need to throw it in the garbage. I just need to throw it in the garbage. If I throw it in the garbage, I'm not gonna eat it. And then I threw the donuts in the garbage and I sat back down to watch TV, and I was like, donuts are still technically in the box. And you know what? I freaking went back up and I grabbed one of the donuts from the box and I ate it. Sat back down and I ate it. And there was like a little moment where, did I just really eat a donut out of the trash can, right? Again, it didn't touch any other shit. It was in the box. I wouldn't have ate it if it touched other stuff, but I was like, it's still in the box. But even though I had like, purposefully, impulsively put that donut box in the garbage to not eat it anymore, I still went back. And after that little moment of epiphany, I was like, that's nasty. Like there's a problem here. And so what I did is I went back to the garbage, I emptied the donuts in the garbage, and I poured some orange juice over it just to make sure like I didn't touch it. Like that's what I had to do to make sure I didn't touch it. I don't feel like I would have went back if there was no orange juice on it and it was just in the trash, because it's already pretty nasty. But man, just the fact that I went for it and I had to pour orange juice over it to ensure that I don't eat it again, it was crazy to me. But at the end of the day, it was a drastic approach for just a drastic problem at the time. I was like, I just can't seem to control myself. Just to kind of like bring it all together and like bring it back. Like, is it the healthiest journey that I went through of like eating all that crap food and justifying to myself that I was going to be a fat power lifter and I was doing it for the sport? Was it healthy? No. Was it healthy that I ate a bunch of crap to make it fit to my macro and get a six pack? No. But it got me to the place a few years down the line that I was actually able to have discipline and willpower and commitment. And now I am who I am, right? I've been able to do half Ironmans, like over 20 triathlon. I've been able to cycle Vancouver to San Francisco. I've been able to do a bunch of photo shoots, do a lot of cool shit in the fitness and health industry. Now we have I have my company, Fit Vegan Coaching. We've helped almost 1,000 people. Like we've been able to serve and help a lot of people out of those struggles and those lessons that I went through. And that's why we do things differently in the program. But first, like looking back, I basically had to handle the first big problem, which was I didn't like the way that I look and I had to lose some weight. And then the biggest problem was now I feel like I look great, but I feel like shit. So now I should change the quality of my food. And I changed the quality of my food over the years, and then I felt better. And then from there, I was like, okay, how can I optimize myself? And then I've basically been playing this game for well over a decade, because I've been vegan for over a decade now, just over a decade. And I was like a few years prior to it. And so, yeah, I've been optimizing myself for many, many years now. And now it's at the place where it's like, it's just really fun. I love the way that I look. There was a comment on another YouTube video that I made. It's like, you would look better with big arms and broader shoulders. I'm like, I used to have big arms and broader shoulder and I didn't like it. I didn't like being that big. I didn't like being that heavy. I love being athletic. I love being light. I love being able to run, to dunk a basketball, to cycle, to swim, to do all these incredible things. I've been every shape you can think of at this point. This is my preferred one. This I feel good. I feel good in my body. I like the way that I look. I like myself. But it took me years to kind of get in this journey. And so looking back, could I have made it fit with my macros and ate healthier? Like, yeah, absolutely. But my head wasn't there. And so to me, that was my perfect journey, right? It might look different for you, but I just want to share this story with you so that, again, you might be at the beginning of this journey. And I just want you to know that there's hope on the other side, that you can get there. You might be midway through it and you're like, wow, this is all the amazing things that are coming. And again, you might be on the back half of it and you've conquered it for yourself, which is incredible. I applaud you because it's really hard. And so here's how I approach nutrition nowadays. And this is how we coach our members as well. And is personally how I handle every single one of my transformation. I'm going on a cruise in like 30-ish days. I've been doing a little body recomp phase for maybe the past like 20 days already. So maybe like 2 months of body recomp. That's how I approach every little transformation that I do at this point, just for fun, because again, I've done all the transformation. I like the way that it looks. So just tightening up a little bit for a nice little bathing suit season. I still allow myself to have some of these foods that are not so great for me. That's what I found that works for myself. If I tell myself I'm going to eat 100% whole foods and clean all the time, then as soon as I don't, then I feel like I broke my word to myself and I'm not being perfect on my plan. And by saying that I can't have any of these foods, I don't know for you, but it makes me want them more. Even to this day, if I'm like, I can't have ice cream, kind of want some ice cream now that you said it, right? So for me, I focus on, I want to feel incredible every single day. I want to have a ton of energy so that I can serve the people in our coaching program and the people that I work with. So that's my number one priority. And then the second priority is I want to keep a healthy relationship with myself and with food. And so what I do is, whenever I feel like having something, then I just allow myself to have that thing, but I make it fit within my calories for the day. And so I don't beat myself up. Let's just say like tonight I have a craving and I was like, I would really like to have some vegan ice cream and I have 400 calories left on my calories and I hit my protein, I ate whole foods, all my fiber, everything's been hit already. I'm going to allow myself to have a little bit of vegan ice cream. right? Because there's nothing wrong with that. And then I have the ice cream and make it with my calories because I know that I can eat shit food, hit my macros, and get in shape. So I know that if I don't eat shit food 90% of the time and I have 10% of the time I have a little something, that keeps me sane, that brings a little bit of joy, then it's not going to sabotage anything because I could literally eat 100% shit and still get in shape. But I'm just eating like 10% from time to time. It is not a daily thing. So if I want some popcorn with Ivy, we're going to make some popcorn. If I want a little bit of vegan ice cream, I'll have a little bit of vegan ice cream. I'm not going to beat myself up for it because if I do, that's when I start to resent myself. I start to have a bad relationship with food. And I've been doing this approach for over a decade now. Since I went vegan, I've continued this approach. If I want something, I just allow myself to have it and I make it fit within my metric. 80% of the time, I don't track my calories and my protein because again, I'm already in the shape that I want. I'm happy with how I look. I don't need to be more jacked or whatever. I'm just having fun with my body because it can do incredible things. So whenever I want something, I have a little bit of it because there's always a point when you eat something sweet or salty or whatever that you start to not taste it anymore, right? Like the joy you get from it starts to diminish the more you have. And there's always a point where you're like, okay, well, this is just sugary or salty or whatever it may be. So I just eat a little bit of it. I feel good. And then I just stop. That's pretty much it. And what happened as I've been doing that for over a decade now is it removed those foods from the pedestal, right? It's like, oh my God, for some of you, it's bread. For some of you, it's carbohydrate. For some of you, it's whatever, ice cream, donut, cookies, or pizza, whatever. Like it removes them from the pedestal where you're like, they're just another food, but they're not the greatest for you, but they're not going to destroy you if you eat healthy the rest of the time. And so if you want a little bit of popcorn, a little bit of vegan ice cream, have it, not going to kill you. You're more likely to die just from all the freaking pollution that's out there in the world, right? So have a little bit of it. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's okay. You're not going to crush all your results. The rest of your calories and your food, eat it whole food, plant-based, eat healthy food. And then you're going to notice the cleaner you eat, the less cravings you have because your gut microbiome is going to change. And so whenever a random craving kicks in, two things. One is you can drink some water because a lot of times it'll just pass it. If make yourself busy, the craving will pass. And if it's like really, really, really strong, like two things, if I'm not training for anything specifically and I don't really care, I'm just going to have a little bit of it. If I'm trying to tighten up for something or I'm training for a race or blah, 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 and I know it's going to affect my recovery, then I'll just play the game of let's see if I can resist it, right? Let's see how long I can resist it. And it's just like this internal challenge that I have with myself. This little like game that I have of like, I want this thing and I'm not going to have it. And I understand that I'm not going to die if I don't have it, that I'm going to be absolutely fine. And so I've learned to gamify it to a certain extent, but because I allow myself to have the thing whenever I want it, but I make it fit within my metrics, like I said, it's not on a pedestal anymore. It's not like, oh my God, I see a cookie and my whole body lights up and I'm like, I have to eat all the cookies. Or if I see a pizza and my whole body lights up and I have to eat the whole pizza, it's like, I see it and I'm like, I could eat it, but I know I'm going to feel like shit tomorrow. I'm going to feel groggy. I'm going to feel puffy. I'm going to feel inflamed. What do I have on my calendar tomorrow? Oh, I got to record 2 podcasts. I have a high rocks workout. I'm going to do all these things. Do I feel like feeling like shit tomorrow? No, I'm just not going to eat it then, right? Even if it's a healthy version that's homemade, I still feel terrible after. So I'm just like, I'm just not going to eat it. Like at the time of this recording, it was Chinese New Year yesterday. So we went to eat out at lunch with my mother-in-law and Ivy. And it was like a vegan Thai restaurant. It was oily. It was very sweet. There was like a orange chicken of some sort, but obviously it was vegan. It was tofu. And it was so sweet. My mother-in-law didn't think it was sweet, but it was freaking sweet. And I ate a tiny bit of it and I stopped eating several hours before bedtime. And this morning I woke up, I was groggy just from the food. And that's what happens over time as you kind of fine tune your body. You want less of these foods because you eventually realize the cost that eating these foods bring to your life. Like you feel like shit the next day. You don't have energy. You feel groggy. And to be fair, when I was 240 pounds and I was eating all that crappy food, I was numb to how numb I felt because I was so used to feeling like shit. Like it was the baseline. That was my normal. If I didn't eat crap for one day, it wasn't enough to offset all the crap that I was eating. So I still felt like shit the next day. But eventually that feeling like shit, that feeling numb, that feeling bloated, that feeling puffy was kind of normal. I learned to handle it. I think that's the issue for a lot of people. They know how to handle feeling like shit. And when they start to feel good, they sabotage. And I know it sounds really interesting, but again, we've coached almost 1,000 people. So I've seen a lot of psychological changes in our members. But if you're used to feeling like shit, like and you normalize it and you know how to handle it, when you lose weight and you get healthier and everyone around you is giving you a ton of compliments and you have so much mental clarity and so much energy that you don't know what to do with it, it is very overwhelming. And people don't know how to deal with it. And then they somehow self-sabotage to eating some terrible food. And the next day they feel groggy, but they feel normal because they're used to it. I know it sounds so stupid to be like, wow, you feel so great. Let me fuck it up because I'm so used to feeling like shit. But it is true. People do it all the time. And I had my own experiences with that where I've kind of cleaned up my sleeping hygiene, nutrition. I did a bunch of things to optimize my sleep and my schedule. And I was talking to my own mentor. I was like, I have so much energy and I don't know what to do with it. He's like, but isn't that what you wanted this whole time? I was like, yeah, but it's like too much. And again, I wasn't drinking caffeine or anything. I was just like, I have too much natural energy. I don't know what to do with it. I have to do shit all the time. He's like, yeah, go hike, go work out, go do other stuff. I self-sabotage. I'd be like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to bed later because I have so much energy and I can't sleep. I go to bed later. I feel groggy the next day. And there was like a sense of home. I was like, oh, I know how to feel tired. I know how to feel groggy. Again, it's a conversation for another time. So anyways, I don't want to bore you with like all my stories. I have a ton of them. I will be, if you guys enjoy these videos, definitely let me know because I have a lot of stories from my fat loss journey. Eating donuts out of a trash can is not even the wildest one. So if you want to hear more stories like that and they're actually helpful for you, let me know in the comment section below. It would mean the world to me if you subscribe to the channel because I would like to pass 10,000 subscribers just as a fun goal for myself because I've always wanted to hit that number since I started on YouTube. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, hope it was helpful. If you have any questions for me or comments, I would love to hear your perception of this video. So let me know in the comment section below or feel free to private message me. I think my Instagram is linked somewhere on my YouTube channel, on a YouTube page. But I appreciate you all. Thank you for listening to this video and stay tuned for Tuesday's podcast because we have some incredible guests coming on the show. All right. Ciao, everyone.